operations in Amuwo Odofin area of Lagos. Now, the complaint highlights barge and tugboat operations will pass underneath the Mile 2 Badagry Expressway link bridge, which has a very low headroom, and through natural or human error. Now, there is the risk of the barges hitting the bridge with the resultant impact compromising the structural integrity of the bridge. Now, there's also a low-hanging, high-tension electricity cable by the Mile 2 Badagry Expressway link bridge, which can be severed by the container boxes on the barge and fall into the water. Well, joining me now live in our Lagos studio to discuss this development and much more, I have Ayodele Adio, the managing editor of the Avalon Daily. Good to have you today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Now, going by this situation we have on ground, this alleged illegal operation we have there, first of all, let's talk about response time, investigations, and other measures to nip any further sort of menace. We've seen over the years, take a look at issues of explosions within host communities, tank farms, and a whole lot more. The calls are tilting to the same order, where they say action must be taken. What do you make of this current scenario?
I mean, I think it's a case of a lack of urgency from those in authorities and forward thinking, basically. It's an absolute chaos when you go to that part, that was just shown in your report now. It's absolute chaos. The traffic en route to that road now it's unbelievable. The instability there, the effect on businesses, the effect on trade, the effect on commuters. It's just complete chaos. And then you wonder if an impact assessment was done before the decision was taken to situate, what was situated at that particular location right in an urban center. It doesn't make sense at all. And what needs to happen is that government needs to be proactive and first to move it away from there because the dangers are clearly imminent except something is done quickly. We don't want a situation where 2-3 years from now we'll do the usual condolence visits and we'll do the usual press release statements that starts by commiserating with those who have lost lives and properties. That will not be acceptable. The time to act is now and to ensure that you protect not just the environment, but the businesses in those areas that are already being killed by what is ongoing in Amuwo Odofin now.
And looking at the impact of damage this would have on livelihoods of people as well as their households and much more, what sort of engagement do you also expect from the host communities coming together as one voice and also trying to put a stop to what they allege is already taking a footing in their community? I
mean, unfortunately, they seem to be taking punches on many sides because the spillover of the Apapa port is one problem that they have been dealing with over time. For a very long time. The extortion, the insecurity around that area has been so much for them to contain. I don't just think it's just about the residents engaging. You have elected officials across the value chain there. You have people representing Amuwo Odofin in the State House of Assembly. You have people representing them at the Federal House of Representatives. You have a senator who covers that entire space of land. You have a local government chairman in that place. They need to begin to take the lives and properties of people living in those places very seriously. So if you asked me what residents need to do, is to put pressure on the elected officials in those areas to ensure that they make the right decisions, to ensure that sanity is restored to the Amuwo Odofin axis. Because where this is headed, I mean, you drive through that place when it's dark, and you're scared for your life because you have boys running in between those tankers who are robbing phones, who are abusing women, who are committing all sorts of crime along that particular axis. You have area boys who have completely taken over operations in that place. What happens is that sometimes if you they now even run toll operations there. You have to pay a certain amount of money to these boys or these hoodlums before they can even allow you past certain areas. They are running, they are running illegal bypasses. People are passing through one-way roads. You have containers who are running against traffic on those roads, endangering the lives of people. So, it does look like it's an area that is not governed and which should not be. So I think it's important that government officials begin to take that seriously and act very quickly. And talking about the picture of the area being ungoverned, do you think at this point in time the body language of the authorities is that they understand what rules and regulations are, and before issuing any sort of license or even their oversight function of going around these communities to ensure that no illegal structures or terminals are being operated? We profound what is happening in that area, because even if you look at the business angle for the federal government, your report started with the inefficiencies in the Apapa port, which I also told you has been spilling over to Amuwo Odofin area. Custom loses 600 billion every year from the inefficiencies in that port. The entire industry loses 2.5 trillion every year because of that same inefficiency. That same inefficiency has led to Lomé, a small country, a small capital in Togo, right across us as neighbors, as the leading destination hub in the Gulf of Guinea, because you are more likely to process your container there than in Nigeria. So you have all of these bottlenecks and these red tapes and inefficiencies that is killing businesses, that is making life difficult for commuters, that is making insecurity grow in that particular area. And there's no sense of urgency from elected officials in that particular vicinity to nip this in the bud. So I think that residents in that area and businesses in that area who are suffering a lot of impact should begin to put pressure on the elected officials in that area and make a very strong case for sanity to be restored in that environment. Otherwise, they are going to kill, because what happens? Price of property will drop, insecurity goes up, businesses will shut, and of course, it becomes a vicious cycle of
activity to a halt.
Yeah.
So now, wrapping up our conversation, still using this area as a case study, at the end of the day, what should also be our response in terms of project management? The entire country, the entire West African coast, every single region is working towards stronger infrastructural development. But at this point in time, with all of the pattern we've seen so far, we don't seem to have a clear blueprint as to what we ought to do. Looking at the state of that bridge as it is now, there's the need for integrity tests to be done. What should be the response towards this project management across board nationwide?
I mean, I think a lot more attention needs to be paid to project management, but it starts from having a clear vision in the leadership as to what you want to achieve with the infrastructural development that you put in place. If clearly in your vision board you have infrastructure that is supposed to facilitate trade and development, it means you will prioritize the impact of that infrastructure in its immediate environment, because in your vision board, it was to drive sustainable development and trade in the very first place. So if the key objective is to drive trade and sustainable development in that area, then I think elected officials will start to pay more attention into the very, very details, because the details, they say, is the devil, they say, is in the details. To pay more details to the impact assessments, to the environmental impact, and of course the consequences it has on people living in those vicinities. Okay,
thank you very much for your contribution on the Breakfast Show today, our daily, our dear, and most definitely we have to act now. We can't just unnecessarily postpone until things get worse.
Absolutely.
Well, that's a wrap.